on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice. And by the 2014 Honda Odyssey, the world's first minivan with a built-in vacuum. Honda, the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Welcome to Rogers Center. It's indoor baseball tonight. It is raining outside, and the roof is closed. Mike Scioscia's team, they had their hitting shoes on last night. Mike Trout had a couple of hits. He was on base 3 times in the ball game, and he is the igniter in the middle of this lineup for the Angels. Now it's time to take a look at the lineup. It's brought to you by Quaker State, real, durable oil. Top of the order is the rookie J.B. Shuck in left field. He's got a chance to be the Rookie of the Year. Eric Ibar, then Mike Trout. And we talk about Mike Trout. Look at his on-base percentage, .437. That's the highest in club history, and a remarkable stat when you think about all the great players that have worn an Angel uniform. And how about the night Mark Trumbo had last night? 5 for 5. He also scored 5 runs in that ballgame. That's the first time that has ever happened in franchise history.
Ball that was out over the plate, he didn't miss it. He was mashing it. It started early, a double into right center field, and then a double down the left field line. So he's got that covered and hits one ball over the wall in left field. The Blue Jays did a pretty good job of controlling Mark Trumbo when they were out in Anaheim. Just 3 for 16 the last time. In fact, they struck him out 5 straight times at one point. But yesterday, he was mashing everything. He came into that series right here on a hot note.
Well, the Angels, as we mentioned, 12 runs on 18 hits, and R.A. Dickey is going to have his hands full trying to cool off these hot bats.
There's the record for R.A. Dickey. He won his 3rd consecutive game last time out versus the Twins. In fact, that's 15 straight starts of at least 6 innings pitched by Dickey. That streak started back on June the 21st. Right here at Rogers Center versus Baltimore. It's his first start versus the Angels since 2008. He hasn't faced them since 2009 when he pitched in relief. So R.A. Dickey trying to get the Blue Jays back in the winning column tonight.
Defensively behind R.A. Dickey, as is the case every time he goes to the mound, Rajay Davis is in left field. Because of his speed, Anthony goes in center, and Moises Sierra is in right. Laurie and Reyes on the left side of the infield. Ryan Goins has been a real surprise at second base. Adam Lind is the first baseman, and behind the plate, Josh Tolle, who handles the knuckleball very well.
And with Colby Rasmus still out, Anthony Goes showing off some of the tools in last night's ball game. Gets the start again tonight against the left-hander C.J. Wilson, which is very interesting. And I think he's played exceptional defense. That outstanding speed has really been a plus for him.
So R.A. Dickey is set, and J.B. Shuck, the rookie, steps in. Shuck leads American League rookies in hits with 114 and runs scored 52 and total bases. He's having a fine rookie campaign.
He's been a little bit under the radar this year, hasn't he?
He sure has. A lot of people wouldn't even recognize J.B. Shuck, but he is in contention for Rookie of the Year.
Trying to hit over 290. The last rookie for the Angels to hit 290 or better, Garrett Anderson.
Turned out to be a good player for a long time. Upstairs, it's 2-1. Chuck did not play in the game last night. Colin Cowgill was the leadoff man, and he was the one guy that didn't have a very good night. He was 0 for 6, top of the order. Pulled foul at the first base side. R.A. Dickey, you can see he's got the American flag on the left side of his hat, and the Canadian flag is on the right side. That's in honor of 9/11, 12 years ago today. Hard to believe it's been that long. This is a high fly ball to right. Moises Sierra moves underneath it, and Shuck is retired, one down.
Well, it's things that we will look for tonight from R.A. Dickey. Does he have the good movement in that knuckleball, and is he keeping it in the strike zone? He hasn't faced these Los Angeles Angels, so it'll be interesting the first time through to watch the Angels approach against R.A. Dickey.
Mentioned his last start against the Angels was in 2008, and there's only one holdover. And here he is, Eric Ibar. He was in that lineup back in 2008. Takes a first pitch fastball for a start. Ibar got everything going for the Angels last night. He had a one-out home run in the first, part of a 4-run first inning against Mark Burley. Dickey is a good fielder, makes an easy play of it. 2 quick outs here in the first.
Well, it looks like that ball is moving tonight for Dickey. They got the roof closed, and he has pitched some of his best baseball this year indoors.
So here is Mike Trout. I mentioned Trout and his great on-base percentage. .437. The highest previous on-base percentage for a single season. Actually a tie. Tim Salmon and Chili Davis both had a .429 on-base percentage in 1995. Trout's a smart hitter. He will take first pitch strikes early in the ball game, hoping to set you up for later on in a more meaningful at-bat. 2 outs. Boy, that's a wicked knuckleball. Very slow one and very effective.
67 miles per hour. That's something that Dickey's been throwing in there his last couple of starts, incorporating the slower knuckleball to go along with the strikeout pitch, the hard knuckleball.
The Angels have played well on the road of late. They've won 10 of their last 12 road games, including last night. They were beaten in the first game of this road trip in a makeup game in Minnesota. Do you like Mike Trout hitting in the third spot?
Why not? You know, you usually put your best hitter right there. I want to guarantee that he hits in the first inning somewhere. I don't care if it's first, second, or third, but make sure he comes up in the first inning. I'd like to see him be in an RBI situation. So when he's hitting third, that's a great RBI spot for him.
1-2. Strike 3 called. Trout strikes out. Good start for R.A. Dickey. The Angels go down in order. Top of the first. Both had homers in last night's game. Top of the order is Jose Reyes. Right behind him is Rajai Davis, who has hit well against C.J. Wilson, the Angels starter. He's 7 for 21 with a pair of doubles and 3 RBIs. And then the cleanup hitter is Adam Lynn. He, too, has hit well against C.J. Wilson. He's 5 for 13 with a long ball and 3 RBIs.
That is the lineup that C.J. Wilson will face tonight. He's put together another very good season. 15-6, a 342 earned run average. Those 15 wins right there, tied for third in the American League. He is unbeaten his last 9 road starts. That's the longest streak of career for his career, third longest by lefty in Angels history.
Defense behind C.J. Wilson, and he'll give up some contact. He's going to throw it over. It's J.B. Shuck, the rookie, in left field. Mike Trout was the DH last night. He's a terrific defender in center. Cole Calhoun is the right fielder. He's got a strong arm. Andrew Romine continues to fill in at third base. Eric Ibar making his 122nd start at short. Grant Green is the second baseman. Mark Trumbull, the big first baseman, has committed 8 errors over at first. And switch hitter Hank Conger is behind the plate.
Yeah, we got a treat tonight. We got Mike Trout in center field. He is fun to watch. He can go get them out there.
Well, C.J. Wilson is set. He makes his 30th start of the season here tonight. He throws a lot of pitches. He leads the majors, averaging 110.4 pitches per start.
Yeah, there are innings where he really loses it for a while, but there's no question about his stuff.
Jose Reyes takes the first pitch strike. C.J. Wilson in his second season with the Angels. He signed as a free agent 2 off seasons ago. Last year he went 13-10 in 34 starts. Hit sharply on the ground. Ibar is positioned perfectly. 1 down. So that'll bring to the plate Rajai Davis. And Davis in the 6th inning last night.
You know, he is hitting the ball hard. Had a couple home runs in Arizona. Pulled the ball, hit a couple line drives also in Minnesota. He's getting a little bit stronger. He's getting a little bit more playing time at the top of the lineup. He'll get some more fastballs hitting in front of Brett Lawrie. Up to 5 home runs now for Rajai.
Wilson throws a lot of fastballs. He's going to come right at you. I think he picked up a lot while he was a teammate in Texas of Cliff Lee. Very simplified approach. He just tries to be aggressive.
Or you have to use your fastball. First time through the order, he doesn't change that much as he goes through the order. Basically the same thing. Fastball, he'll cut it a little bit, a curveball.
Way outside, it's 3-0. Last thing Wilson wants to do is walk the speedster. Brett Lawrie is on deck, hitting third. Rajai Davis needs to get aboard. He has 40 stolen bases this season. Four-pitch walk. Wilson with his hands out to the side saying, where was that one?
Take a look at that scouting report for the left-hander, C.J. Wilson. 51% of the time fastball, but then a little bit of everything else. Slider, cutter, curveball, changeup. His best pitch might be his changeup and his curveball. Curveball hitting just 217 against the slider, just 207. And he doesn't really stray too far from that approach right there as he works his way through the ball game. It's just about the same stuff.
Brett Lawrie, the third baseman, with 1 out, and Rajai Davis at first. Lawrie takes a strike. Boy, Davis had a huge lead at first base, anxious to draw a throw just to get a look at C.J. Wilson's move.
A little one-way lead over at first base.
There's the move. Well, he had almost both feet on the artificial surface. Just to get a little reminder of what kind of move Wilson has. Again, another huge lead.
And that's exactly why he has that big lead. He wants to force C.J. Wilson to throw over there because he wants to see it. Now, that wasn't a good move right there. That was just a show-me move. If he gets that big lead again, this is where you throw him your A move.
There he goes, and Lawrie goes after the pitch. It's grounded to the shortstop, Ibar. Lawrie is out. Davis had a huge jump at first base, and Lawrie might have been better off to take a pitch.
You know what Rajai did? It looked like he went on the first movement. He drew a couple of throws early in the count and then went on first movement. And you're right. It looked like a changeup. He had that one stolen easily. But Brett Lawrie swung away, grounded out.
So Davis is in scoring position for Adam Lynn. Lynn, the first baseman again tonight. Adam had a base hit and scored in his first at bat. Finished up the night 1 for 4 last night. Ben's back from a big breaking ball. .279 for the season, looking for that 20th home run. Ibar broke in behind Rajay Davis, and Wilson delivered the pitch to the plate. There was a gaping hole at shortstop. The pitch was up and away.
Somebody didn't get the sign if it was Wilson or Ibar. Look at it. He flashes in behind him. And you're right, if Adam Lynn could have picked up on that, or if the ball was a strike, he might have been able to round one through the left side.
There goes Rajay. Throw to third, not in time. Davis got such a big jump. He hesitated after the first move and then said, you know what, I'm out here. I might as well go.
Yeah, just in case it was an inside move, he stops, and then says, I'm going to get it. And he steals it relatively easily. Hands on the knees, and he goes on first movement again. He's got such quick twitch muscles when he takes off.
41st stolen base of the season. Jacoby Ellsbury, who is currently injured with the Red Sox, has 52. He leads the American League. Right on the outside corner. Blue Jays trying to break through. Angels didn't score in the top half of the inning. Davis, with a one-out walk, moved to second on the ground out and stole third. 3-1 pitch to Lynn. Outside, ball 4. 2 walks in the inning, and this is the pattern that C.J. Wilson has used all season long. He'll pitch himself into trouble, and more often than not, he will pitch his way out of it.
Yeah, his stuff is so good. He can get himself out. 2 more walks here in the first inning. Now the Blue Jays have to take advantage of that. Come up with that big 2-out base hit.
Tell you what, the Blue Jays have the right guy at the plate who is anxious to swing. You can bet he's looking for a first pitch fastball here, Moises Sierra. Sierra's done a good job. 7 doubles and a home run. Swings at the first pitch and drives it up the alley. That's going to get by and go all the way to the warning track. Linda's going to be stopped at third as Sierra picks up yet another double on the first pitch.
Boy, put it out there on a tee, didn't you? You knew exactly what was happening. You walk a couple of batters, you got to take advantage of the situation. You got a young player at the plate in Sierra. Wilson's going to challenge him with a fastball. Sierra was waiting for it. He ripped that ball. Could have been 2 RBIs. First pitch fastball, belt tie right over the middle of the plate. What are you waiting for? He rips it into the gap in left field. If not for Mike Trout in center field, that's 2 runs for the Blue Jays. He cut the ball off, and he kept Lynn from scoring.
Mark DeRosa with runners at second and third.
That's a good approach by Sierra. Hey, I got guys out there to drive in. I've got runners I need to drive in. Don't wait around. First fastball you see, let it rip.
Sierra got the first hit of the ball game.
Mike Trout, that's why we highlighted him in center field. He saves runs with that great speed. So you say, what's the big deal? He cut the ball off. Well, he kept Adam Lynn from scoring. That ball gets by him. Lynn scores easily from first base.
He unloaded in a hurry and put it in the hands of the relay man, Eric Ibar. DeRosa hits it to the hole in short. Ibar throws high and over the first baseman's head. 2 runs come in. DeRosa will end up with an RBI single. 1 RBI, and DeRosa will go to second base on the throwing end.
Blue Jays coming up with 2 outs. A big base hit by Sierra. Then the infield single and error allows the run to score. Ibar gets there and then throws high. This is the 100th error of the season for the Los Angeles Angels, the 13th of the season for Ibar. And just like that, Blue Jays put 3 on the board.
Now, last night, the Jays fell behind 4-0 in the top of the first. Tonight, Mike Scioscia's Angels have given up a 3 spot so far, and they're not done yet. DeRosa, as we mentioned, picks up an RBI, his 32nd of the season. An infield single ends up at second base on the throwing error by Eric Ibar.
Isn't it amazing? Even in the first inning, when you walk guys, how they end up scoring.
Never fails, does it?
It just seems that way. I mean, they've been stranded out there plenty of times, but it just seems like you walk guys, especially in the first inning, they find their way around the bases.
Ryan Goins takes a first pitch breaking ball for a strike. Goins gets the start against the left-hander, and he has done a good job. He's been impressive early on. 291 average.
It's a good test for him right here against the left-handers. Stay in there. Watch his approach.
It's this ball up the middle. He got jammed. Grant Green goes to first. The inning is over. But the Blue Jays take advantage of a couple of C.J. Wilson walks. They scored 3 and take a 3-0 lead. The skipper had given him the gears for that head first slide into first. He said, hey, it's 2 outs. I got to get there. That's a big RBI.
I'm smelling a base hit. I'm smelling a run. I'm smelling an RBI. And he gets all of the above.
Josh Hamilton checks his swing on the first pitch. Hamilton went 3 for 5 in the game last night. He drove in 4 runs for the middle of the order. Did some damage. Trumbo had 5 hits. Right behind him, Josh Hamilton had 3 hits. And then the catcher, Chris Iannetta, had 3 hits. 11 hits in those 3 spots in the order.
Boy, a lot of damage. The team, the Angels, last night, 10 extra base hits against Blue Jay pitching.
Mark Burley, his roughest outing of the season, gave up a career high 12 hits and 8 earned runs. A season high, excuse me. Hamilton takes the leadoff walk.
Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Brought to you by the 2014 Honda Odyssey, the world's first minivan with a built-in vacuum. Honda, the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mark Trumbo at the plate. That goes off the glove of Josh Thole. That'll go back to the screen. Or Thole, should be a pass ball. It is indeed. And that was a wicked knuckler that got away from him.
Well, that must be so hard for a catcher. Yeah. Reputation on another pass ball. But that was nasty from Dickey. That thing was moving all over the place. No spin. And then right at the last minute, it starts moving once again. And Josh Thole's tracking it. You can see his eyes are right on it. Right off the glove.
Trumbo with a big swing. It is a challenge for a catcher for sure. You never really know what it's going to do. You try to stay as relaxed as possible and keep your wrist really relaxed and go after it right at the last minute. There is no formula for an approach as a hitter, nor is there one for a catcher. It's just so unpredictable.
If only you could have a giant net as a catcher, then you wouldn't have any pass balls. Unfortunately, you have to use a glove.
Trumbo fouls it back over the Angels dugout. Trumbo had a big night last night. He was 5 for 5 with 5 runs scored. He had 3 doubles and a home run. Big offensive night. He's got a 6-game hit streak. For the season, he's batting just .244.
I guess Blue Jays took care of him the last time they saw the Angels out in Anaheim a month or so ago. He was 3 for 16. They struck him out at 1.5 straight times. But he had a couple of home runs and a single in that series.
Fouls this one back. There aren't a lot of hitters in this Angel lineup that have faced R.A. Dickey in the past, and Trumbo is one of them. He hasn't seen him before. Eric Ibar coming into this game 1 for 6 against Dickey. Josh Hamilton 2 for 3 against Dickey. Howie Kendrick is 0 for 2. He is active but on the bench to start this game. That is high and deep to center. Anthony Ghost will watch this one sail into the seat, second deck in center. Trumbo has homered again tonight. 21st home run Dickey has allowed here at Rogers Center. And the Angels are right back in it. A 2-run home run for Mark Trumbo. That's 6 straight hits.
I think he's locked in right now. Just a week ago, Trumbo was in a 161 funk during a 2-week homer drought. But right now, he is locked in. Watch that bat come through. The head stays down. He hit number 30 on Friday night. Hit one last night. Past 6 games, 12 for 26, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs coming into this one. Wow.
Well, we told you he became the first Angel to have a 5 for 5 game and score 5 runs. Bouncing ball. Cole Calhoun is thrown out by Goins. That's the first out. The top of the second. The home runs have been a problem for Dickey, especially at home, and that's what happens when hitters do square it up. Because there's no spin on the baseball, it'll really take off. Hank Conger is a switch hitter. He's the catcher tonight. .256 for the season. He's got some power. He's hit 7 home runs. Blue Jays lead at 3-2. Talk about the walks again.
Yeah.
That leadoff walk to Josh Hamilton scores ahead of the home run.
Well, the middle of that lineup has done some damage so far. Going to have to rethink what they're going to do with them. Hamilton, Trumbo. Last night, Iannetta hit in this spot right here and had 3 hits himself.
1-2. That's a base hit past Goins into right field. Conger has a hit. This is a tough pitcher's ballpark, no question about it. When you look at the numbers for the season, home runs by stadiums. Camden Yards has given up 210 home runs, 2.88 home runs per game. And there's Rogers Center right behind him, Houston's Minute Maid Park. Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark and Miller Park, home of the Brewers. Those are all the last places any pitcher wants to work.
Yeah, those are all great hitters' ballpark. The thing about this one here, you got the turf, so the ball shoots through. Even when you make a good pitch and you get the ball on the ground, there's a better chance for it to shoot through into the outfield because of the turf.
Grant Green, he was 2 for 5 in last night's game. Bouncing ball, Reyes hits short. Goins at second, back to first, double play. Ryan Goins has really turned double plays quickly. Reyes and Goins have teamed up very effectively. The former shortstop playing at second makes a nice turn to end the inning. Strong arm on the money. Contrast to their last 16 starts, C.J. Wilson has gone 11-1 with a very good ERA over that stretch, and R.A. Dickey, he's been good as well.
Yeah, R.A. just needs a few more runs. C.J. Wilson's 11 wins right there. That leads the American League over that time span. Time for the Major League lead also in victories over that span. Great earned run average, getting some run support. R.A. needs a few more runs, and his record would be good too.
C.J. Wilson walked 2 in the first inning, and both of those walks came around to score. Anthony Gose pops it up, shallow left field. Eric Ibar, the shortstop, makes the catch. 1 down. Fans, if you want your baseball questions answered by our team of experts, email asktheexperts@sportsnet.ca and keep your eye out for the Home Hardware Ask the Experts segment later on in the game. So Gose is retired on the pop-up. Josh Tolley, another left-handed hitter. C.J. Wilson has 3 left-handed hitters at the bottom of the order. It'll be interesting to see how that works out for the Blue Jays. Goins, Gose, and Tolley 7, 8, 9 in the Blue Jays order. Ground ball. Grant Green waits on it. 2 quick outs. Grant Green was acquired in a trade from the Oakland Athletics July 30th for Alberto Callaspo, and he is playing, filling in for the injured Howie Kendrick, who has just been activated off the disabled list. We have yet to see Kendrick play in this series.
And we probably won't see Kendrick. He had a hyperextended left knee. It was an ugly collision in the outfield. Been out for 5 weeks, and they go to Houston from here, and they'll probably play him on the grass in Houston. Keep him off the turf.
Reyes with a 1-1 count. Reyes grounded out to short his first time up. Ibar had him played perfectly, takes the short hop. Quick inning for C.J. Wilson. Takes him just 7 pitches to retire the side in order. pitch by pitch and enjoy in-game video highlights. The app is available on the iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, Android, and BlackBerry Z10. Season-long subscription packages are available. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. And Bat 13 is the official app of Major League Baseball. 3-2 ball game. Blue Jays have the one-run lead. Andrew Romine, the third baseman, will start things off. Up the middle, Reyes from the outfield throws a strike to first base. Romine's retired. Boy, Reyes has got a strong arm, and that helps him when he has to range deep on the infield.
You know, that's a play that has been, for Jose Reyes, a play that he hasn't been able to make because of his ankle. His ankle has been bothering him. You can see he finally is starting to feel better. His range is coming back slowly but surely. He takes that ball from center field, spins around, and then throws out the runner. But that was a play a couple of months ago we didn't see Jose make.
Yeah, he couldn't get to it first of all, and then he couldn't spin and get a lot on the throat.
That's exactly right. The spinning part was the part that really hurt his ankle.
B.J. Shuck, the left fielder. J.B. Shuck. Rookie left fielder hits it to Lind. He scoops it up, steps on the bag. 2 quick outs here in the third. That'll bring to the plate shortstop, and last night he started everything in the first.
2 strikes, ball down and in. And he's not a big power hitter. It was just his 6th home run of the season, but hit it in a good spot early. Tried to cut that ball in on his hands, and he did a good job, Ibar, of just shortening up his swing, using his hands, get the barrel of the bat out, and he kept it fair down the left field line.
Ibar guessing fastball, got the knuckler. Dickey will use that fastball from time to time just to get ahead in the at-bat.
Best time to do that is in the first inning, isn't it? I mean, really mess up the heads of those hitters. What's he throwing me a fastball for?
Ball and a strike. Ball is hit hard down the right side. That's going to hook into the seats out of play. R.A. Dickey will turn 39 years old on October 29th. He was a former first-round pick of the Texas Rangers out of the University of Tennessee. That was back in '96. 1-2. Wicked knuckleball, and you can see that 67 mile an hour is a key number. He has thrown a couple of those tonight very slow, but boy, he gets dramatic movement with that slow knuckleball.
You watch the miles per hour. That's 67. That's the slow one. Then he's got one about 80 or 81 miles an hour as Ibar just barely nicks that one. That's great separation. High 60s, low 80s.
There he tried the fastball and missed inside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. We're in the top of the third. Blue Jays lead it 3-2. Little chopper, and Dickey will run into the baseline and tag Ibar. Quick inning for R.A. Dickey. The Angels are down in order. We'll go to the bottom of the third. Jays up by a run. Friday on Sportsnet 1. You'll see guys like Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, and Brian Urlacher. All the latest in news and analysis. Fox Football Daily, 6 p.m. Eastern on Sportsnet 1. Boy, the big talk around the NFL is Chip Kelly and that upbeat offense in Philadelphia. How many plays they would have turned? 53 plays in the first half?
Yeah, that's crazy, too. The hurry-up offense, and he wants it to be even faster.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how long that catches those defenses off guard.
Something else that's going to be interesting to see how long Michael Vick can stand up. I mean, you really put your quarterback in a situation where he can get knocked out.
C.J. Wilson throws a breaking ball strike to Rajay Davis. Davis scored the first run of the ball game in the first inning. C.J. Wilson grew up in Southern California. Came out of Newport Beach, California, and he got a chance to go back to sign with the Angels. He's 32 years old. He was an All-Star in 2011, 2012. Took something off, and Davis strikes out. That's the first out of the bottom of the third. So that'll bring up the number 3 hitter, Brett Laurie, grounded out the shortstop. And Brett Laurie, since the All-Star break, has been right at the top of the Blue Jays rankings offensively. Second in batting average, first in hits, third in runs, and second in RBIs. It's been a different Brett Laurie in the second half of the season.
He has slowed things down. The game is starting to slow down for Laurie. The thing that I'm impressed with when I watch him over the last couple of weeks is his two-strike approach. And we've talked about that a lot. Having that good two-strike approach to be able to come up with big base hits.
Big Mark Trumbo made a nice play and scoops it up, goes to the bag. 2 outs here in the bottom of the third. Laurie stayed on that breaking ball, hit it hard, but Trumbo's got a big, wide wingspan and made an easy play at first. 2 down. When we come back after this next half inning, Robbie Alomar will join us. The Hall of Famer will join us in the booth to talk about a showcase baseball tournament he is the host of, happening here at Rogers Center later on this month. So make sure you join us when we come back. Robbie Alomar in the booth. Adam Lynn walked and scored in the first. C.J. Wilson starting to find the strike zone.
Yeah, both he and R.A. Dickey look like they're starting to round into form early in the ball game, trying to get their mechanics down out on that mound. You got a hitter you got to deal with now. 15-6. Tie for third in the American League for the most wins.
Of course, that fella in Detroit stuck on 19. Max Scherzer hasn't been able to win his 20th game yet this season. Lynn strikes out. Wilson comes down and in for the strikeout. 3 up, 3 down in the third. When we come back, Robbie Alomar will join us in the booth to talk about his upcoming baseball tournament. Baseball, September 20th through the 24th, right here at Rogers Center. Blue Jays Hall of Famer Roberto Alomar will host a showcase baseball tournament at Rogers Center, highlighting some of Canada's best amateur baseball players with college eligibility. Tournament passes are now available at bluejays.com/T12, and we are pleased to be joined now by the Hall of Famer Roberto Alomar. And Robbie, tell us about the genesis of this. How did this tournament come about?
Well, it's about giving the kids an opportunity, the young guys, to come here and show their skills. And hopefully scouts from college can see them, and hopefully we can find the next Led Laurie or Joey Votto. Who knows?
How many teams are going to be present in the tournament?
It's going to be 10 teams, and they're going to play 4 times against each other. And I'm looking forward to it. I think as a young guy, when I was 16, 17, I had an opportunity to be in Puerto Rico in the tryout, and that's where I was found, and the guy saw me and got the opportunity and signed as a free agent.
How were the players picked for this, and what age group are they going to be?
Well, the age group is from 16 to 18. I think the scouts from the Blue Jays are the one who picked the kids. So we'll see how much talent we have here in Canada.
What is the whole idea of this? To try and get kids signed, go to college, something like that?
To hopefully the scout can see them, have an opportunity to maybe go to college, signed by a college scout, or go to a professional level. Sometimes there's kids out there that they never had this opportunity that you haven't seen. So this is an opportunity for them to come here, show their skills, and maybe open some eyes, and hopefully they get that opportunity and make their dream come true.
Robbie, obviously you've been involved in this for a long time. You've done the clinics with Dwayne Ward across Canada. Are you seeing a growth in the talent level of Canadian athletes as you travel across from coast to coast?
Yes, I've seen a lot of growth in the Canadian team. I think this is good for baseball. It's good for the Canadian baseball, and I'm so glad that I'm part of it. I'm so thankful for the Jays organization. They have done such a great job with baseball, and I just want to continue to do that.
Now, they're all coming here. When is it? I'm not real sure when that tournament's going to be.
It's from the 20th to the 24th, I believe. The players are going to be here in the 19th, and just get ready. Get ready for an opportunity.
Robbie, did you guys reach out to colleges and junior colleges to let them know that all these kids were going to be playing at this showcase?
Well, I think our scout department is the one who is in charge of that. So they call some Major League Baseball scouts. It's going to be some Major League Baseball scouts and some college scouts.
Obviously, that is the showcase tournament that will be held here on September 20th through the 24th. It's the Tournament 12 presented by New Era, and make sure you check it out on the website. So, Robbie, we're going to put you on the grill right now and ask you a little bit about baseball. First and foremost, obviously, there's a new second baseman here, and you knew a little bit about playing second base. What's your assessment of Ryan Goins?
Well, I love his footwork. I think Ryan had done a great job in second base. When I saw him in AAA, playing in AAA, he opened my eyes, and from day one, I thought this guy he was ready to make the next step and play in the big leagues. And here he is. I'm so happy for him, and so happy that he had played such a great defense, and he's going to learn. He's learning about the game, and he's going to continue to grow.
Robbie, you made the same transition as Ryan's going through now, from shortstop to second base. What are the challenges that he is facing making that move?
Well, the only challenge that you have as a ball player is learn the league and learn the players. That really is. I think as a second baseman, you have to realize that when you go to your right, everything is going to be behind you. So it's a matter of you knowing the player, knowing who has speed, who doesn't have speed, and knowing your teammate on the infield.
You said you saw him at AAA. Did you go down there and scout him? Did you put a report in on him?
I went to see him in AAA the opening day, and he made a few wonderful plays. And I pass it along to our general manager. I say to Ali, this kid can be good, just in case by the end of the season, maybe you can give this kid a chance. I believe that this kid is ready. Here he is, showing that he can play in the big league level, and hopefully he can continue to work hard every day so he can get better and better.
You talk about his feet, and you say his feet. That's the one thing. What about it? What is it with feet for middle infielders that's so important?
Well, I talk about footwork. If you see his footwork, he know where he's standing. He always stands in his toe. He's not flat-footed. A lot of the guys, when you are flat-footed, you're not gonna be able to have a big range. So when you look at his feet, it's always moving, and he seems like he's enjoying the game. You know, that's the main thing for a ball player. Enjoy the game, go out there, have some fun, and have knowledge about the game.
Mark Trumbo is the batter, nobody out. Mike Trout walked. Josh Hamilton singled to center, and Trumbo has already homered here tonight. Hits this ball high. That should stay in the ballpark. Sierra. Trout tags, and he moves over to third. Sierra made a strong throw to the infield. Reyes is able to cut it down. Well, with Robbie Alomar, and Robbie, I got one more question for you. You talk about young players coming up. Back in 2003, you were playing second base, and there was a young player that came up to play shortstop with the Mets at 19 years old. He was pretty good. Tell us about Reyes when you first saw him.
Yeah, he was pretty good. He's still good. And he got older, but he's still good. He's a fun guy to play with. He brings a lot of joy to the team. I remember when I first came to the New York Mets organization, and I played with him. He was asking me a lot of questions, and that's how you learn, asking questions. And he always was motivated to work every day, and that's why he is such a great talent, such a great player.
Robbie, we want to wish you the best in this showcase tournament. It takes place September 20th through the 28th right here at Rogers Center, and congratulations on putting this all together and putting your name on something so effective for young players.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and to all the kids that are listening out there, come prepared to play the game, have some fun, and hopefully we can make their dream come true.
Anthony Ghost with the throw toward the plate is not going to be in time. Mike Trout comes in. The Angels have tied it up here in the fourth. Robbie Alomar, good luck, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Good
to
see you.
Robbie, great idea. I think it's going to be a smash hit, buddy.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Good luck to you.
So the Angels have tied it up. Cole Calhoun with a sacrifice fly picks up his 24th RBI of the season. Mike Trout with his great speed tagged up from second, went to third, and then scored on the sac fly to center. Again, that walk coming around to score.
That's right, that leadoff walk. When you get Mike Trout on board, does that put him in triple digits now, scoring runs?
100 runs scored, so Mike Trout joins an elite group of Angels that have scored 100 runs in back-to-back seasons. Don Baylor did it 78-79, Troy Gloss in 2000-2001. Trout also becomes the seventh player in Major League history with 100 runs in his age 20 and 21 seasons. 20 and 21. He's just 21 years old. Joins John McGraw, Mel Ott, Buddy Lewis, Ted Williams, Vada Pinson, and Alex Rodriguez.
Wow. You know, whenever you mention Mike Trout in the names that he's passing, or he's the numbers that he's putting up the same as, they're legends of the game.
Yeah, Hall of Famers. And
Ty Cobb, Ted Williams, you know, those type of players.
Alex Rodriguez, of course, and Williams did it in 39 and 40. Hank Conger, he swings and misses, strikes out, that ends the inning, but the Angels tie it up. The leadoff walk came across to score. It's a 3-3 game as we head to the bottom of the fourth. Zone, our guest from the Joe Carter Golf Tournament, courtesy of TD. Welcome to the ballpark, and hopefully you had a great day of golf. While over in the Jays Care Community Clubhouse are some very special folks from Toronto EMS, Toronto Fire Services, and Toronto Police. Thank you for your services and welcome. Enjoy the ball game, and we got a heck of a game going on here. It's a 3-3 game as we head to the bottom of the fourth. Moises Sierra will start things off. He had a RBI double his first time up, part of a 3-run first inning for the Jays.
First pitch fastball. Let's see if C.J. Wilson does it to him again here leading off the fourth.
Hank Conger doing a little work behind the home plate as trying to smooth out a couple of divots. Sierra picked up his 8th RBI. There's a first pitch breaking ball on the corner.
The first thing you do when you face a young hitter, you throw him the fastball. Let's see if they can hit my fastball. Well, when they prove they can do that, you go to something else.
Calhoun's not going to get it. It bounces over his head. Sierra is headed for second. He's making the turn to third. Here's the relay throw. Not in time. And now he's going to score. Moises Sierra circles the bases. A triple and an error. And the Blue Jays have retaken the lead. He's an exciting player.
Very interesting guy. He's got some talent. He's got some tools that the Blue Jays are hoping are just now scratching the surface. He can hit. He's got some power. He can run a little bit. Takes this ball the other way. Double to left center field. This time doubles to or triples to right center field. When that ball went all the way to the wall, he made up his mind, I'm going to go to third. And for some reason, the pitcher was not backing up at third base, and the ball rolls into the dugout. The Blue Jays score a run.
You're right. C.J. Wilson gets where he should be. That would save the run, at least for the time being. So it's an error on the shortstop. His second error. Eric Ibar has committed 2 errors in this game. He committed an error on an infield hit off the bat of Mark DeRosa. Threw high to first base, allowed the second run to come in to score. On the DeRosa infield hit, that was the 3rd run of the first inning, and now his error contributing to this run here in the 4th. You mentioned the defense, and the Angels have had problems on defense. Ibar has now committed 14 errors at shortstop.
101 on the season now for the Angels, which is at the bottom in the American League. Bottom 3rd. Here's the relay from Ibar right at Romine. And Romine missed it. They might change that.
Yeah, they take a look at that. They might change it. There's a ground ball to the second baseman. Green fires to Trumbo. 1 down. Fans, it's time now for our BlackBerry Sneak Peek Stat of the Game, brought to you by the new BlackBerry Z10 and Q10, built to keep you moving.
Well, the impression that Ryan Goins has made on the Blue Jays and the fans and everybody, it's not just with his glove. How about his bat? .291 average. The rest of the players that have played at second base for the Blue Jays this year, .210. So he's doing it offensively as well as defensively.
Yeah, it has been a real area of concern, the offensive production. And when you think about the defense as well, Goins has been involved in 13 double plays in his 17 games coming into this.
You know, that's not an accident. I mean, he shows a strong arm. And the Blue Jays defense has been a lot better with him out there. Range, his arm, his glove, and turning the double play.
0-2. Goins strikes out. So DeRosa grounds out. Goins strikes out. Second strikeout of the night for C.J. Wilson. Two down. Anthony Gose popped up to the shortstop his first time up.
The second baseman is deep right now. and Wilson falls off the mound to the third base side. Excellent time. Get yourself aboard right here. There you go.
He heard you. All you got to do is play with your head up. When you look around the infield and you notice the second baseman was deep, you say, okay, well, if I get it past the pitcher, who happens to be left-handed, he's going to fall off toward third. There's a big gap.
Yeah, just get it by the pitcher. Now, Green, the second baseman, has moved in a little bit. He was out on the outfield part of this turf. Anthony saw it. That's the important thing.
So Anthony swings at the next pitch, and that's something he's going to learn, to take those borderline pitches. He anticipated he was going to get a fastball and got a fastball, but it wasn't a good pitch to hit.
Yeah, tough 1-0 fastball.
But this is all part of experience, and Anthony wants to get better. He has worked hard with Chad Mottola. He had 121 strikeouts in just over 100 games down in AAA. He wants to cut down that number and utilize his great speed.
Yeah, first thing you see, he's had much better at bats, seeing more pitches, recognizing more pitches.
You know what? There aren't many Mike Trouts in the game of baseball who can come up and just dominate a game as quickly as he has. For regular players, it takes a while to get your feet on the ground. Trout's an exceptional player, and we mentioned some of the people that he has played in the same company with, including Ted Williams. Those strikes out, inside fastball, 2 strikeouts in the inning. We'll go to the 5th. Blue Jays have a 4-3 lead. Now it's time for Blue Jays Central Update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Blackberry Broadcast Studio. Available. The Blue Jays will host the Chicago Cubs, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Philadelphia Phillies right here at Rogers Center. Blue Jays travel to play the Cincinnati Reds, Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Brewers. They'll also have a 2-game series in Philadelphia against the Phillies. So for more information and to start planning your summer vacation next year, visit BlueJays.com for the complete 2014 Blue Jays baseball schedule.
And always, I'm sure we'll see Blue Jay fans next year on the road like we have this year. What a pleasure it has been to see all the Blue Jay fans in all the visiting cities where the Jays have been.
They have certainly created a great atmosphere. That's a fair ball down the left side. Rajai Davis over to cut it off. Grant Green will end up at second base with a leadoff double. We mentioned it's going to be tough to cool off this red-hot Angels lineup. They scored 12 runs on 18 hits last night.
First pitch swinging, Green right by Laurie. You play the percentages, play off the line that he's not going to hit the ball by. That time he crosses him up. Another extra base hit by the Angels.
Andrew Romine had a sacrifice bunt in the 5th inning last night, not showing bunt here, and takes a strike. Romine is the brother of Austin Romine, who is the Yankees catcher. Romine was given that last air. They changed the ruling on it, and he was charged with the air, take the air away from Ibar.
I think that was the right call right there. That was right at the end of last half inning. They changed that. Went off his gloves. Catchable ball by the third baseman. Not a bad throw by Ibar.
He got jammed on that inside knuckler, trying to wait as long as possible, and then the thing kind of tracked right in on his hands. Nobody out. Leadoff man at second with the double. Grant Green's sixth double of the season. Laurie at third base looks back the runner. This time he unloads in a hurry. Last night he got caught on a similar play.
Save during the plumbing, heating, and electrical expert sale only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Brett Laurie in last night's game had a ground ball with a runner at second base. Took a little bit too long to look him back, and Grant Green beat out the throw for an infield hit. Not this time, one out.
Just give him a little glance like Brett did right there in case he fell down or something like that. He's not going to advance. I mean, if you're the runner at second base and there's a ball hit the third baseman, he catches it, you're not even going to attempt to go to third base. Just give him a quick glance, see if he's still on his feet, and then throw the runner out.
J.B. Shuck has gone 0 for 2 so far. The Angels have committed 2 errors here tonight, and this has been a problem for them all season long. 101 errors committed on the season. Ibar has an error. Romine has an error. For comparison's sake, Baltimore Orioles have committed 42 errors in 144 games, and that's a little bit more like what Mike Scioscia would like to see from his ball club. You tighten up the defense, pitching's going to get better naturally.
Well, this is a team that's always been a good fielding team, the Angels. They, for the most part, don't beat themselves. They're down at the bottom now. Chicago has the most errors in the American League, 108, followed by Houston with 107.
Foul back out of play. The Angels have had to use a lot of different players, even at first base. Albert Pujols made 34 starts. He's been out now with that foot problem. They have used 6 different starters at first base. Second base, they've used 5 different starters. Third base, 6 starters. They have had to use a lot of different players all year. So it's been a mix and match season for Mike Scioscia. Don't have to worry about those 2 guys, Trout and Trumbo, on the bench. And if I'm the manager, I'm going to sit right next to Mike Trout a lot.
Make sure he gets to the ballpark every day, too.
Full count, 1 out. Ground ball. Reyes gloves it at short. Has no play. It'll be an infield hit for J.B. Shuck. Grant Green goes from second to third on the base hit.
Shuck has a nice little approach at the plate as a hitter. It's a good approach against a knuckleball. Not a lot of movement. Just use your hands. Watch how he just slaps at this ball that's away from him. Reyes keeps it on the infield, and he also keeps the double play in order by knocking that ball down and catching it.
So Dickey's got runners at the corners. Blue Jays have turned 1 double play already. Dickey would love to see number 2 right here. Dickey's trying to protect a 1-run lead. It's 4-3 Jays. Eric Ibar, the switch hitter. Another bouncing ball. Ibar hasn't been able to square up that knuckleball at all. He has grounded out to the pitcher and tapped back to the mound, and Dickey tagged him out. First out of the inning, Aaron Loop. Very curious he would be up this early, but he is loosening up. Dickey with another throw to first. Dickey's thrown just 64 pitches. But John Gibbons has looped up.
You thinking about Josh Hamilton?
There's a fly ball to left. Davis is retreating deep. Tagging at third is Grant Green. He'll come in to score. And once again, the Angels have tied it with a sacrifice fly. They did that back in the fourth as well. Eric Ibar picking up the ribby. 52 for the Angels shortstop.
Playing a little fundamental baseball right here. Double infield hit, sacrifice fly. Rajai Davis was shallow against Ibar. Made the adjustment, got back there, and hauled that ball in.
Mike Trout walked in, scored in the fourth. I mentioned the pitch count. That last pitch is 75 now for Dickey.
Still in good range.
Yeah. No reason to be concerned about the pitch count. I think John Gibbons has loop up for Hamilton if Trout can get aboard. Check swing foul off the catcher.
We don't know of any pre-existing condition with R.A. Dickey. He's thrown as many as 122 pitches this year in a ball game, so he's still fine. He came out late today for his warm-up. It was almost 10 minutes till 7 when he started warming up.
And he didn't come in from the bullpen until 7:05. He took a long time coming out of that bullpen. Umpires had already had their meeting. They were waiting on Dickey. Sidearm and missed with that pitch. 1-2. Dickey also did something I haven't seen a lot. You mentioned it, but he threw long toss for a long time. Maybe he had trouble getting loose tonight.
And it was long toss from the bullpen all the way to behind third base.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Mike Trout bats with 2 outs. The Angels have tied it up here. A double, a single, sac fly. J.B. Shuck might be running on this pitch. 2-2 count with Trout at the plate. Not running. Trout hits it to Laurie. What a snag. Fred Laurie takes a hit away from Mike Trout. That ends the inning, but the Angels have tied it up. It's a 4-4 game as we go to the bottom of the 5th. Once again, Brett Laurie does it at third base, plays it off to the side. No problem at all. Inning is over. 4-4 ball game. Josh Tolley takes a breaking ball for a strike. First pitch of the bottom of the 5th. C.J. Wilson gave up 3 runs in the first. Just 2 of those were earned runs. Tolley hits a high fly ball to left. Long run for J.B. Shuck. He gets there and makes the catch in fair ground. 1 down.
Save during the plumbing, heating, and electrical expert sale only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Big Dog and Peppers looks pretty good down there at the concession stand.
How do we get one of those up here?
You got to have 2 free hands to eat that. Jose Reyes has grounded out twice to the shortstop. Last time up, he hit a 1-hopper right at the feet of Eric Ibar. Ibar is playing him in the hole, and now he has just moved a step further to his right.
That's a very interesting setup right there on the left side of the infield by the Angels against Jose Reyes. Shortstop and third baseman look like they're almost right next to each other. Look at the hole he has to shoot for right back through the middle.
What should that tell you if you're Jose Reyes?
They're going to pitch him inside. Cutters inside, maybe fastball inside.
There he throws a pitch up and away. So this is one thing that's always crucial for a pitcher, to know where your defense is set up so you don't pitch away from your defense. 2-1. Downstairs. I think that's one thing that was always so great about the Atlanta Braves and their great run of division championships. They had pitchers that could execute a game plan. You'd set up the defense in a dramatic shift, and the pitchers never missed their spots, so they were always balls hit right into the defense.
And they had great defenders. Chipper Jones at third base. For years, you had Jeff Blauser.
Mark Lemke at second. They've had a lot of good defenders, and of course a pitching staff that could execute their pitches.
That's where it always starts, doesn't it? I mean, we were talking about that yesterday in our opening, the nice little hot streak the Blue Jays have been on. Their starters have given them a chance to win.
C.J. Wilson walks Reyes with 1 out here in the 5th. Wilson has now walked 3. 2 previous walks have come around to score. R.A. Dickey has walked 2. And both of those walks came around to score.
Blue Jays only have 3 hits tonight to go along with their 4 runs.
Rajai Davis has walked and struck out. Davis batting second tonight. Bottom of the 5th, the 4-4 game. As we mentioned, Reyes has been moving a lot better lately, and he is a candidate to try to steal a bag. He's got 14 stolen bases so far, and C.J. Wilson is aware of that. Louis Rivera, the third base coach. If John Gibbons wants to, they'll stop Reyes from time to time. I don't think that's the case now.
Not a great move. 1 for 12 this season against C.J. Wilson. 1 caught stealing in 12 attempts against him. So not a bad idea, not a bad thought to send Reyes in motion.
1 out. Rajai Davis back in the 3rd inning had a great jump off of C.J. Wilson. Wilson was very deliberate. Davis went on the first move, and Laurie hit the ball to the shortstop and grounded out. Breaking ball, and Reyes will move up. Boy, great anticipation. He saw the angle of that breaking ball in the dirt, and he didn't hesitate. As soon as it hit off the catcher, Hank Conger, he took off for second.
He wasn't getting a very good read off of C.J. Wilson. In fact, he was going back to first base on that pitch towards the plate, but read that the ball was in the dirt. Watch him. couple of steps towards first, but reads that the ball's in the dirt. Shows you how tough it is for a catcher to find the ball and then throw at a guy who can run like Reyes. It makes it easy without a throw.
Yeah. Jose took 2 steps back toward first on the pitch to the plate and then reacted very well once he saw the ball in the dirt. So Davis now with a runner in scoring position. Fouls it off the end of the bat. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
He has been crushing everything inside over the last 10 days or so. Fastball, sliders in. Looked like Wilson was trying to pitch him away there.
The inside. Used that breaking ball down and in, and Davis wouldn't chase. It's a full count. Brett Laurie is waiting on deck. Reyes at second, reached on the 1-out walk, moved to second on the wild pitch. Second baseman Grant Green makes a nice play on the short hop. He throws Davis out, 2 down. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Roof is closed at Rogers Center. There were some showers in the area at the start of this ball game. It's a 4-4 game. Brett Laurie has grounded out twice. Laurie has hit .294 with runners in scoring position. We mentioned his hot streak since the All-Star break. Look out. Reyes and Luis Rivera both ducking out of the way of that hot shot.
Looked a slider or a cutter right over the head of Luis Rivera. Stay back, look at Luis. Hit the deck.
That's why the base coaches wear the helmets. You just never know when you're going to have a line drive come down to that coaching box.
You got to watch the pitcher, the batter, the runner, the fielders, and then, oh yeah, the baseball.
You know what's really hard for coaches is they've seen that ball come at them their whole life, but they always had a glove. So it takes a long time to learn how to duck and get out of the way. Because your natural reaction would be to catch it.
Go try and catch it. I think Brett's got to be very patient right here. Look for your pitch right here. You got a left-hander on deck. Wilson might want to just see if he can nibble and get Brett to swing at something off the plate.
He did throw him a breaking ball, and Laurie takes the walk, second walk of the inning. Fourth of the ball game for the Blue Jays.
I don't think he wanted any part of Brett Laurie right there. Take your chances with the left-hander.
Scioscia going through the defensive signs to the catcher Hank Conger, who's out to talk to C.J. Wilson. Those signs are to the defense against a potential first and third steal play.
Yeah, there's only 3 signs that he threw up there. There's only 3 plays that you have in a first and third situation. And you'll see the catcher out in front now going through the signs, giving it to the infielders, let them know where he's going to throw the ball just in case Brett Laurie takes off over at first base.
Adam Lynn has walked in, struck out. Lynn got the pitch he was looking for and swung right through it. This has been the MO of C.J. Wilson since he's joined the Angels. He'll pitch himself into jams and then pitch his way out of it.
It's a lot like the first inning. A couple of walks, a double and an infield hit. Went for 3 runs. 2 more walks here in the 5th.
Tim Welke down at third said that Lind went around and tried to check his swing, but the crew chief down at third base rings him up
from the side. And he said, yes, that's enough of a swing for Tim Welke.
So Lind's got a battle now. Runners at the corners, 2 outs. C.J. Wilson pitches out of a tough situation. The Blue Jays strand a pair. We'll go to the 6th. It's a 4-4 game. Here comes the Home Hardware Cleanup Crew, brought to you by Natura. Home Hardware's exclusive line of safe, environmentally friendly cleaning products. And they were hopeful that he would put up numbers like he did when he was with the Texas Rangers. 3 seasons in Texas, he was an offensive terror.
Boy, he certainly was. An MVP award, a 313 average, 33 homers, 107 RBIs. Not so in his first season in L.A., and he's hit his 20th home run last night, but he's starting to figure it out, he said. He's at 244, which is the highest average it has been all season. And he says he can feel that he's starting to get there, that he is starting to square up the baseball with a little bit more consistency. Squaring it up, hitting it hard, seeing it, and getting the barrel to the ball. And he might be right over his last 29 games. 4 homers, 16 RBIs, starting to figure it out.
It's jammed on that pitch. With Hamilton hitting his 20th home run last night, that gives him 20 home runs and 30 doubles. He becomes the 7th player to have 4 straight 20 home run, 25 double season. The other players that have done that, 20 home runs and 25 doubles in each of the last 4 seasons, it's an impressive list of offensive players. So a little looper behind shortstop, that's going to drop for a base hit. Leadoff single for Josh Hamilton here in the 6th. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. The Orioles lead the Yankees. Scott Feldman has allowed just 1 hit in 5 innings, but he has been charged with 2 earned runs. He gave up a home run to Curtis Granderson. Robinson Cano with an RBI has 99 RBIs on the season. The Yankees lead the Orioles 3-2 as the Orioles bat in the bottom of the 5th. Back and forth. Going to be quite a stretch run for all those teams in the East. Boston, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and New York.
Those two teams, Baltimore, New York, separated by half a game in the wild card.
Tampa Bay losing to Boston 3-1, middle of the 4th. Alex Cobb pitching for Tampa Bay against Ryan Dempster. Aaron Loup is up for a second time. Cole Calhoun, left-handed batter, is behind Mark Trumbo. 2-0. There's a good knuckler in there.
Boy, they just haven't had an answer for Hamilton and Trumbo so far in this series. They are locked in. Shows you the kind of damage that power hitters can do in the middle of your lineup when they're hot.
Trumbo pops this one back over the screen. Josh Hamilton's been on base 3 times tonight, a walk and 2 singles, and Trumbo has already homered tonight.
Stayed right on that knuckleball over the middle of the plate. He had a couple of good swings early in that at bat and fouled it straight back. And this one right into the party section out in center field in the second deck. Souvenir time.
Pops it up. Shallow right field. The second baseman is out. The edge of the outfield. He makes the catch. Ryan Goins retires Trumbo. 1 down. So Cole Calhoun, the right fielder, will step in against R.A. Dickey. Calhoun picked up a sac fly back in the 4th. That tied the game at the time at 3-3. Calhoun was the 2011 Angels Minor League Player of the Year. The Angels have done a great job over the years of drafting and developing homegrown talent. Calhoun was an 8th round pick in 2010.
That was quick, getting him here to the big leagues. Had a great series in that 4-game series back in Los Angeles, Anaheim, when we were out there.
Well, Calhoun comes out of a great collegiate baseball program at Arizona State. So you can push him a little quicker, given the caliber of play he has been used to. There's a drive, and that's going to get down for a base hit. Anthony Ghost gets over and cuts it off. Gets it back to the cutoff man. Calhoun is aboard, his first hit of the night.
Save during the plumbing, heating, and electrical expert sale only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
R.A. Dickey with 1 out and runners at the corners has looked back over his shoulder and noticed that John Gibbons is coming out. And Josh Tolley is catcher. Just a little pat on the backside. Gibbons takes the ball from Dickey, and R.A. will leave. It's a 4-4 game. Runners are Dickey's responsibility. Hank Conger, a switch hitter, will face Aaron Loup when we come back in this tie game. There are runners at first and third. The scheduled batter was Hank Conger, a switch hitter. Aaron Loup was summoned in from the bullpen to make his 59th appearance, and to counteract that, Mike Socia has called upon a pinch hitter.
There are the numbers for Loup. Real good against lefties, over 300 versus the righties, so that's a natural move right there for Mike Socia, bringing the right hitter Iannetta, who had a big game yesterday.
Throw to first base to check in on Calhoun. Chris Iannetta went 3 for 4 yesterday with a towering home run in the 6th. One of the highest home runs we've ever seen here at Rogers Center. Hit a 2-run homer in the 6th inning. That was off of Chad Jenkins. Hamilton at third. Cole Calhoun at first. There goes Calhoun, and they throw to second. He's tagged out. Aaron Loup goes to first base. Calhoun went on the first move, and Lynn made a good, accurate throw to Reyes at second to cut down Calhoun.
Boy, is that ever huge for the Blue Jays. For some reason, he takes off on first movement, and he is an easy out at second base.
Boy, Adam Lynn did a great job of coming to get the baseball to clear himself from the base path and give Reyes a good look at the throw. Big out. Iannetta takes the strike.
Now no sacrifice fly. Watch Adam Lynn catch the ball and then keep going. That's what you do. You just go right towards the pitcher. And that opened up the nice little window for the throw to the shortstop. And he knows who's covering. The first baseman knows who's covering it on a pickoff attempt.
So Loup credited with a caught stealing. It goes 1-3-6. He picked up a big out before he ever delivered a pitch to the pinch hitter, and now he's ahead of Iannetta. 0-2. Changeup downstairs. Well, you talk about a tough delivery. I don't care if you're right-handed hitter or left-handed. That crossfire delivery, it's difficult to pick up the baseball out of the uniform of Aaron Loup.
What's the first reaction for a right-handed batter when you see that type of windup balled away, right? But he has that ability to crossfire and get that ball inside. You have to respect his changeup, his breaking ball, and the fastball. He can slip on the inside corner.
And I think, too, that addition of the third pitch, the changeup, has really helped him. Grant Green is on deck. It's a full count. Chris Iannetta cuts on and missed that changeup. What a job by Loup. He catches a runner stealing and strikes out the pinch hitter, Dickey, in a 4-4 tie. Honda Odyssey, the world's first minivan with a built-in vacuum. Honda, the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Moises Sierra's had 2 at-bats tonight, 2 extra base hits. This is our drive of the game tonight. It's a ball that gets over the head of Calhoun, the right fielder, goes all the way to the wall. Sierra is going to leg it in. That's a triple, his second extra base hit, and will come around to score on the error by the third baseman as the ball glances off of his glove into the Blue Jays dugout. Tonight's drive of the game from Moises Sierra.
Sierra has scored the third Blue Jays run and the fourth Blue Jays run, and we are tied. It's 4-all. New catcher is Chris Iannetta, who entered the ballgame as a pinch hitter and struck out, so he is back behind the plate. Iannetta started in the game last night. Finished up 3 for 4 in that ballgame, and he misses the first pitch up and away. Sierra's average up to 283. Limited at bats, of course.
But 7 runs scored, 8 doubles, and 8 RBIs in that limited time.
This is his 53rd. Check that, 54th at bat. He's got 53 at bats. He's done some damage. Upstairs, I have talked to Tony Pena about Moises Sierra. Pena was Sierra's manager during the World Baseball Classic this past March, and he felt that it was a great experience for a young player like Sierra. First of all, you've got Reyes and Hanley Ramirez and Edwin Encarnacion, Robinson Cano, a lot of great star players on that team, and he felt like he was part of a very good ball club, and they won the tournament, of course. I think it gives players a lot of confidence early in their career to be included in something of that magnitude.
Those type of players, all-star caliber type of players. He also credits Edwin Encarnacion with really helping him out to make that transition to the big leagues.
Drives this ball down the right side. This is trouble. It bounces out of play. Another double. 2 doubles and a triple for Moises Sierra. It's not that easy.
You're facing a pitcher who has won 15 ball games this year, and his ERA is 3.5. You're just hitting extra base hits like it's nothing. Double to left center field his first time up, triple to right center field his second time up, and the right field line is wide open. Why don't we try that one? It looked like a cutter, and he stayed right with it. Didn't try and pull that ball, just drove right through it down the right field line. Another extra base hit.
Well, we talked about September call-ups trying to make an impression for next year in both Ghost and Sierra. Also Ryan Goins, and you can throw Kevin Pillar. They've all made an impression for sure. Mark DeRosa takes one up and away. Sierra in AAA Buffalo hit 18 doubles this year. He's got 9 already here.
9. How about that?
He has just continued what he started in AAA Buffalo. He had 18 doubles in 100 games in Buffalo, had 5 triples, 11 home runs. Gap-to-gap power for sure.
Yep. Seen him hit a home run, too, where he can really extend through. Boy, C.J. Wilson has really slowed down this game.
3-0. Nothing bad can happen when you've got the baseball in your hand. Ryan Goins is on deck. We have seen Wilson pitch around right-handed bats. He did it earlier with Brett Lawrie back in the 5th. Sierra with the leadoff double. There's a strike. It's 3-1. If you're Mark DeRosa with a 3-1 count against Wilson, are you thinking about moving the runner or thinking about driving him in?
Well, all I would do, I'd look out where the shortstop is. Just look where the shortstop's playing behind the runner. I'm thinking about driving him in. pull it through the left side.
He reached for that outside pitch. It's a full count. Now DeRosa has to change his sights. He's got to advance Sierra at a minimum.
Now think about the middle of the field. 3-1 count. Go ahead and try and knock him in. Now you got to give yourself up.
Drives this to center. Sierra is tagging. Trout's got a strong arm. Sierra will bluff and stop. And look at that throw. Right on the money. Was going to one-hop the third baseman. Ibar, the shortstop, cut it off once he saw Sierra had bluffed and stopped.
People just don't run on him. He doesn't have an outfield assist this year. They just don't run on him. They know better. Gets behind that ball, gets his momentum coming in, gives you a little something extra on the throw. No advancement.
1 out. Brian Goins has grounded out and struck out. He struck out on a high breaking ball back in the 4th. First game that Goins has played against C.J. Wilson, so Wilson is using his experience and the knowledge he gained in the first 2 at-bats.
And a pretty good breaking ball, too. That's about 3 or 4 in a row that he has thrown to Ryan. Go up there and look for it. Slap it the other way.
We are in the bottom of the 6th inning here at Rogers Center. It's a 4-4 game. Blue Jays jumped out in front against C.J. Wilson. They scored 3 runs in the first. The Angels answered with 2 in the second, a 2-run home run by Mark Trumbo. Popped up. Left side. Ibar, the shortstop, moves out into the outfield and makes the catch. Quick throw to second. Sierra gets back 2 down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Alex Rodriguez is starting to get his timing after missing most of the season with the hip problem. Andy Pettit, the left-hander on the mound for the Yankees, has given up 3 runs on 8 hits. Scott Feldman 3 runs on 3 hits. But Feldman has given up 2 home runs, Curtis Granderson and Alex Rodriguez. Anthony Gose 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Sierra's got to work for a big lead with 2 outs. He's got to be moving on contact. C.J. Wilson trying to pitch around a leadoff double. Sierra started the inning with a double down the right field corner.
Well, if you want to get the ball in the outfield, I think you're going to have to pull it against Wilson. Calhoun is deep and right.
There goes Sierra. He takes off for third. That's interesting, and you can see Luis Rivera. I don't know if he ran on his own. I would assume that he did in this situation.
Yeah, probably wouldn't get a sign from the bench, but they elected not to hold him on, so he'll pick up 90 feet.
His first stolen base of the season.
Now we don't have to worry about a play at the plate on a base hit to the outfield. You see left field is shallow, right field is deep. Well, this is where Anthony Gose could just slap the ball to the left side, pick up a run with that speed.
1-2. Strike 3 called again. C.J. Wilson comes up with a big pitch. The go-ahead run just 90 feet away. We'll go to the 7th. It's still a 4-4 game. Dustin McGowan coming on. straight days. 8 p.m. on City. Million-second quiz where time equals money. We are in the 7th inning. New pitcher will be Dustin McGowan, making his 20th appearance of the season. He takes over after Aaron Luke did a good job to close out the 6th.
Boy, he certainly did. Was in trouble and got himself out of it. Another arm for the Blue Jays, a big arm. 20 games now for McGowan. Just came back off the disabled list at the start of this month. He had a right oblique strain, and he has struck out 16 batters over his last 15 ball games. Big fastball, good slider, and good movement. Two-seamer, added that this year.
Dustin McGowan worked twice on the most recent road trip. He pitched a game in Arizona, through an inning in Minnesota. He picked up a hold in each of those 2 ball games. (8-9-1) for the Angels. Grant Green takes the first pitch from McGowan. Green has hit into a double play and doubled and scored. McGowan, we mentioned he last worked on September 6th at Minnesota. Got into the ball game, pitched an inning on Friday night, didn't they? R.A. Dickey start. McGowan came in to pitch the 8th inning. Gave up a single to Brian Dozier and an RBI single to Trevor Plouffe. Then struck out Chris Colabello to end his inning of work. That protected the lead, and Casey Jansen would close it out.
Picked up a hold with that inning of work against Minnesota. That's nasty right there.
Green strikes out. Wicked breaking ball. It's the first out of the top half of the 7th.
So you have to respect the great fastball and the good movement, and then he drops one of these on you. Slider, breaking ball down and away. Just wave at it. Blue Jays are going to have, I think, a very interesting bullpen next year.
Andrew Romine drives this ball to left. Rajay Davis over the shoulder catch. Davis with great speed ran it down just shy of the warning track. 2 down. R.A. Dickey was the starter tonight. He was touched up for 4 runs. 2-run home run by Mark Trumbull in the second. He goes 5 1/3. It was kind of curious when he came out of the game, but John Gibbons went to Aaron Loop, who was able to close out that 6th inning and keep the game tied. So Dickey will take a no decision after another start.
And break his streak of 15 consecutive games of at least 6 innings pitched. I mean, he was automatic.
He's had a great second half. Leadoff man, J.B. Shuck, had an infield single in the 5th. It's 1 for 3.
He does go over 200 innings tonight on the season.
Dickey came into this ball game with 197 innings. That was good for 3rd in the American League, behind James Shields and C.C. Sabathia. Oh, and 2. Up the middle, Ryan Goins from second. What a play. Ryan Goins has made all the plays at second base since coming up to the Blue Jays. He saves Dustin McGowan a 2-out single. Ranging far to his right, throwing on time at first. McGowan gets good support from his D. Bacardi Oakard Smooth Spiced Rum. Bacardi is a proud partner of the Toronto Blue Jays.
We saw Anthony Ghost last night with a big home run. Moises Sierra has 3 extra base hits, and another one of the kids, Ryan Goins, with an outstanding play right here to end the 7th inning. Go to his right and have enough on that ball to get a very fast runner, and JB shut tonight's play of the game. What a smooth move.
Ryan really looks comfortable at second, and the one thing Jose Reyes told me about Ryan Goins is he looks like he's played here for 5 years. We never saw any jitters. We never saw any intimidation by playing in the big leagues. He looks very comfortable, and he's playing in a new position. He's a natural shortstop. JP Arencibia comes off the bench to bat for Josh Tolley here in the 7th. It's a 4-4 game. Arencibia has a pinch hitter, 1-for-12. Out in front of that pitch. Only Mark DeRosa has more pinch hit at bats than JP Arencibia. JP 12 at bats, DeRosa 19. Obviously, this is the situation. Normally, you'll see Arencibia enter a ball game as a pinch hitter. When Josh Tolley starts catching R.A. Dickey, then Dickey leaves the ball game. Arencibia, with a left-hander on the mound, gets the call.
It's a natural. It's an easy call right there. Plus, he's got some power. He can catch up to one of these fastballs here.
Bouncing ball up the middle. Grant Green from the shortstop side of second. Good scoop at first by Trumbo. 1 down. As a reminder, the New York Yankees will come to Rogers Center one more time this season. It all begins Tuesday, September 17th. 3 night games, all starting at 7:07 p.m. So make sure you call the Blue Jays and pick up your Yankee tickets. You call 416-341-1234. Log on to BlueJays.com and stop by most Rogers Plus locations and pick up your Blue Jays Yankee tickets. The final time to see the great Mariano Rivera, who will retire after this season. You can see him right here at Rogers Center. Jose Reyes takes the first pitch strike. Reyes, 2 ground outs and a walk tonight. C.J. Wilson has pitched out of a few jams tonight. He has pitched himself into those jams. He's issued 4 walks in the ballgame. 2 of those walks scored in the first inning. He stranded a pair of walks in the 5th.
Yeah, pitched around those 2 walks in the 5th inning. Then pitched around a leadoff double last inning.
Reyes with a good eye takes one down and away. Juan Gutierrez, the big right-hander, loosening up. Sounds good down there.
Popping the glove and popping my ears.
This is popped up. Shallow center field. Mike Trout coming in from his position makes the catch. Reyes is retired, 2 down. Mike Trout, of course, is very popular among baseball fans, and he's very accommodating. Right before the start of this game, he met with a lot of young fans down the right field line and signed plenty of autographs. And boy, he's a great ambassador for the game. Not only is he a good player, but very personable. Young guy, just 21 years old.
Told him to do that out in Los Angeles. I thought that was really cool.
He's not much older than those fans.
Yeah. 22? 21. 21.
He may have just turned 21. Remember, they made a big deal. I think he turned 21 when the Blue Jays were out in Anaheim. He turned 22 August 7th. Yep.
Still, 22 years old. Where were you when you were 20? Well, you might have been in the big leagues. I know where I was when I was 22. I was way down in the minors still.
Inside. 2 balls and a strike, 2 down. Mike Trout has created an awful lot of young fans. You can see that hat adorned with autographs. Many of the Angels accommodating. 2-1, 2 outs. Davis hits a fly ball to right. Cole Calhoun plays deep in right field, but he is there, and the inning is over. We'll go to the 8th in this 4-4 game. C.J. Wilson doing a job. Starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The New York Jets will be in New England to take on the Patriots. Sportsnet 1 will have it all for you. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thursday night football right here on Sportsnet. Steve Delabar in to work the 8th inning.
There are Delabar's numbers just off the disabled list, and he's throwing the way he did in the first half of the season where he was lights out. He was an all-star for the Blue Jays this year. Shoulder was barking at him a little bit, had to put him on the DL. He's come back, and he's got that splitter and great fastball back.
JP Arancibia takes over behind the plate, having pinch hit for Castelli. Steve Delabar misses with the first pitch to Eric Ibar. Two and out. Four ball game. Three and 0. First out of the inning, always crucial. Ibar working over Delabar. Mike Trout is on deck, then Josh Hamilton and Mark Trumbo.
Yeah, then it becomes paramount to get Ibar with Trout, Hamilton, Trumbo following.
Three 1 pitch, cut on and missed. Full count, nobody out. Leadoff man here batting in the top of the 8th. Strike 3 call. Steve Delabar comes all the way back from a 3-0 count. Eric Ibart didn't agree with the call. Home plate umpire Toby Messner rings him up.
Boy, what a pitch. Comes all the way back and then paints him just at the bottom of the strike zone. Good job by Aaron Seaver to hold the ball right there. You can see it's right at the knees as it crosses home plate. Ibar can't believe it, but Delabar gets a big punch out.
One out. Mike Trout takes one upstairs.
You know, the problem you have facing Mike Trout in a game like this late, he can hurt you with the home run, but if you're too careful and walk him with that great speed, he can get into scoring position.
And he's got such a good eye. As we told you at the start of this game, Mike Trout has the highest on-base percentage in Angel history, coming into this game at .437. He's been aboard once tonight. He walked in the fourth. Inside, he lays off. The appeal down to first base. Hal Gibson, the first base umpire, indicating no swing.
He's also walked 42 times in his last 40 games. Make a mistake, extra bases or a home run. Pitch too carefully, he's on first base.
Mike Trout, just 22 years old, and you can see where he ranks in the American League, right behind Miguel Cabrera. Just 5 points behind Cabrera at the start of play. Joe Mauer, David Ortiz, Daniel Nava, the top 5 in the American League. 3-1 pitch. Cut on and missed. 94 with the heater from Delabar. Josh Hamilton has been on base all 3 times tonight. He's standing on deck. All 4. Trout took a close one. Second walk tonight for Mike Trout.
Just yanked it just a little bit, and it was off the plate.
Save during the plumbing, heating, and electrical expert sale only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Josh Hamilton, 2 singles and a walk so far. Steve Delabar into the game here in the 8th in this 4-4 game. Mike Trout at first. Ball on the strike. I always felt like it was very difficult as a catcher to come in late in the ball game and make a good throw on a steal attempt. Aaron Seaby in his first inning defensively behind the plate. Pinch hit for Tolley. Bottom of the 7th. Trout not running.
I don't think they want to take the bat out of the hands of Josh Hamilton. He's hot right now. You know, you sit at first base and you let him swing away. Now, if he makes an out, then I think Mike Scioscia will let Trout run. But if he steals second, they take the bat out of Hamilton's hand and they face Trumbo.
2-1. Delabar throws high to Lind. Trout is 32 for 39 in steal attempts. A remarkable combination of power and speed. Not running. Hamilton fouls it out of play. Two-2 pitch. Driven down the right field line. Trout is around second, headed for third. Hamilton will go to second. The throw comes in. It's cut off by Goins. And Hamilton has his third hit of the night.
He says he is starting to feel it right now with each at bat. It rolls over to the next one, says Hamilton. Starting to square up those pitches. This is why they didn't want to run Trout. They want Hamilton, who's hot, to swing the bat. Ball in, and look at that, one-handed. He hits the barrel to the ball. Sierra can't cut it off, but he gets it back quickly to hold Trout at third base. I thought they were going to try and score Trouts once that ball got by Sierra. But they hold him up, and now they have to face another hot hitter.
Well, they're going to put Trumbo on with first base open. The intentional walk to Trumbo. This is interesting because Trumbo is prone to strike out. There's a left-handed hitter on deck. Darren Oliver has just now started to throw. Trumbo has been hot just like Hamilton. There you see Oliver loosening up quickly. And there's ball 4, so Trumbo will take the intentional walk. And that'll bring Calhoun to the plate. John Gibbons opting to walk Trumbo. Trumbo hit a 2-run home run in the second inning. But that loads the bases now for Cole Calhoun. Calhoun had a sac fly in the 4th. That tied the game at 3-3. He had a single to center in the 6th, but then was caught stealing by Aaron Loop.
Yeah, he has hit over 400 against the Blue Jays. He's had a couple of home runs. He had a big home run in Anaheim when we were facing him there.
Calhoun drives this to left. Trout's going to tag Davis in front of the warning track. Trout tags, Hamilton tags and goes halfway. They've got Hamilton hung up. Now Laurie will tag Hamilton out. Trumbo was right behind Hamilton, and Hamilton
Let's go. Come on, defense.
gets out of the inning. And that ends the inning, but the Angels have taken a 5-4 lead. Mike Trout scores after walking. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. The Angels have a 5-4 lead. Now it's time for Blue Jays Central Update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Blackberry Broadcast Studio. The Fan. Win a trip for 4 to Toronto to see the Blue Jays take on the Tampa Bay Rays September 28th and 29th. The prize includes airfare, hotel, and a chance to throw out the first pitch at a Blue Jays game. A reminder, the contest closes September 16th. Enter now at bluejays.com/allstatefan. Back and forth ball game. Now the Angels have a 5-4 lead. Big Dane De La Rosa in.
We saw him a bit with the Rays. He is now the setup man.
30 years old, grew up in Torrance, California. De La Rosa has bounced around.
Beltre at the Coliseum on a similar line drive did not score. It turned out to be a big one, but this time fastball in, pulled the hands, leaves.
De La Rosa was released by the Yankees in 2004. Didn't sign again professionally until 2007 with the Brewers. Completely out of the game. Little tapper off the end of the bat. De La Rosa to Trumbo. Flores retired, one down.
He was also in the independent league for a while. Bounced around there with 6 different teams before he went to the Rays. So it's an interesting find for the Angels. It's worked out.
Isn't it interesting how many guys have played independent ball and made their way back to the majors?
Just in the last week, we've mentioned how many.
Andrew Albers, the Canadian from North Battleford, Saskatchewan, pitched for Quebec in the Can-Am League. Chris Colabello played 8 years in independent ball. Big first baseman for Minnesota. Dylan Axelrod, who made his major league debut against the Blue Jays pitching for the White Sox, he too came out of the Frontier League. Daniel Nava of the Red Sox signed out of the Chico Outlaws in the California Independent League. Lind off the end of the bat. 2 down. Brings the red-hot Moises Sierra to the plate.
Well, he's done a little bit of everything. Watch where these balls go. One to left center, one to right center. Smokes that ball over Calhoun's head for a triple. And he will score a run when the ball gets away. And then down the right field line also. Showing a little extra base pop as he hammers that ball down the right field line. Good finish right there. 3 extra base hits for young Moises Sierra.
Sierra takes a first pitch strike. Sierra with 3 extra base hits, his 3-hit night ties his career high. This is his 5th 3-hit game of his young career.
Showing some extra base potential.
Ball and a strike. Breaking ball around the inside corner. This is the 2nd time this year that Sierra's hit 2 doubles in a game. Munenori Kawasaki has got a bat. He's on deck. He would hit for Mark DeRosa if Sierra can keep the inning alive.
Oh,
96.
Turn it up. Turn it up a notch.
C.J. Wilson is in line for the win. He goes 7 innings, gives up just 4 hits. Walks plagued him. He had 4 walks, and 2 of those came in to score. 6 strikeouts to 104 pitches, and now it's up to his bullpen.
4 hits he gave up all night long, but he was in and out of trouble with those walks. 8th time this year, at least 4 walks in a ball game, but still has a chance to win his 16th.
And that's why his pitch count is up there. He has thrown more pitches per start than any pitcher in the majors. Sierra battling Dane De La Rosa. Stays alive. Everything has been up, and Sierra, we have seen, is a very good low ball hitter. Obviously, the Angels have a good scouting report on Sierra. Eric Ibar, the shortstop, was a teammate of Sierra's on that WBC team, so he knows him well. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Ooh, that was a good one to hit right there. 97, but he missed a spot. He wanted that ball away. De La Rosa, and a leap back to the middle.
Depends on how you define good to hit. 97. Another 2-2 pitch. Quite a battle here between De La Rosa and Sierra. Another foul back. 8th pitch of the at-bat. The beauty of baseball. Head-to-head battle. Chad Mottola watching one of his young hitters grow right in front of his eyes.
We saw it last night with Anthony Gose. Can tonight be Moises Sierra's turn?
Breaking ball just around the inside corner. A 9-pitch at bat. Full count. Kawasaki on deck. Ground ball, eye bar it short. Trumbo, inning is over. De La Rosa retires the side in order. We'll go to the 9th. The Blue Jays trail by 1. Darren Oliver into the game. The 4th relief pitcher of the ball game will be Darren Oliver, making his 46th appearance of the season. Oliver comes in after Delabar pitched the 8th. Delabar gave up a run on 1 hit. Sacrifice fly off the bat of Cole Calhoun. The difference in this ball game.
46th game of the season for Oliver, but first in 8 days. That's the problem when you have 13 relievers down in that bullpen. It's tough to find some work. So Ollie gets the 9th inning here in a 1-run game.
Chris Iannetta came in the ballgame as a pinch hitter in the 6th. He struck out to end the inning. Aaron Loop got him on a very good changeup. Iannetta drives this to left. Rajay Davis back to his left, makes a running catch. 1 down. Rogers customers can watch every Blue Jays game this season on Sportsnet live on your smartphone. Visit RogersAnyplaceTV.com/sports to get started. Blue Jays again have been handcuffed. They have just 4 hits in the ball game tonight. 4 runs on 4 hits. Grant Green takes a first pitch strike. Oliver has pitched much better all season long against right-handed hitters. Going against his trend since he moved into the bullpen, he'd always been able to handle the lefties. This year's been a different story.
Almost 2-1. 20 hits and 100 at-bats versus right-handers for a 200 average. I could do that one. But 23 for 66 versus the lefty, that's almost a 350 average.
I think more than anything, it's been his lack of command, the left-handed hitters. He hasn't been able to get that breaking ball down and away as consistently as he has in the past. Pulled foul. He can do that, take something off his breaking ball and get a foul ball.
Get him out in front. But it's been fun to watch Darren Oliver pitch the last couple of years. He has talked about retiring at the end of this season. And they'll miss him. They'll miss him out of that bullpen.
You started to talk about the Blue Jays bullpen and the prospects for next year. It's pretty promising. You got the left-handers, Brett Cecil, Aaron Loop. Louis Perez back from Tommy John, who looks good. Loaded with right-handers, led by Casey Jansen, Steve Delabar, Sergio Santos, Neil Wagner, Dustin McGowan, and Oliver issues the walk.
Jeremy Jeffress, very interesting candidate down in the bullpen.
Chad Jenkins, Kyle Drabek. I think they picture Drabek more as a starter and probably would like to see him start and stretch things out. Both Jenkins and Drabek, good young arms with promise. But there is a chance for the bullpen to be very strong. Ricky Romero, of course, I think is thought of as a starting pitcher, not so much working out of the bullpen.
Yeah, for his career, for the month of September, they'll pitch out of the bullpen, and they'll find work for him.
Andrew Romine drives this to right. Sierra, a couple of steps to his right, makes the catch. 2 down. The Angels have a 1-run lead. Ernesto Frieri, the closer, loosening up. Dane De La Rosa had 3 ground ball outs in the 8th, and Mike Scioscia has his closer ready. Leadoff man J.B. Shuck has a single in 4 at-bats. He was robbed of a base hit by Ryan Goins in the 7th. Goins went up the middle to his right, backhanded, and threw back across his body in time to get Shuck. We're in the 9th inning. The Angels were behind 3-0 after 1. Mark Trumbo got him right back into the ball game with a 2-run homer in the 2nd.
If you're looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th inning, it'll be the bottom of the order for the Blue Jays.
Oliver spears it. That ends the inning, and indeed it will be the bottom of the order. Mark DeRosa, the scheduled batter, Ryan Goins, and then Anthony goes. Blue Jays down by a run. Frieri into the ball game. Ernesto Frieri. He is 31 for 35 in save opportunities. He's trying to close it out for C.J. Wilson.
Good arm. Another good find. They got hit from the San Diego Padres last year, put him in as closer, and he's been outstanding for the Angels. An ERA under 3. If you like fastballs, he's going to challenge you with one.
Ryan Goins had a message for Munenori Kawasaki. Goins is the hitter behind Kawasaki, who is pinch hitting for Mark DeRosa. The Blue Jays need a base runner, and that's why Kawasaki's getting the call here to pinch hit.
He's the best guy right there. He'll work Frieri. Frieri has been known to blow some saves and walk people.
Colin Cowgill comes in defensively to take over in left field. So Josh Hamilton is out of the game. Excuse me, J.B. Shuck is out of the game. Shuck started in left field. So Kawasaki pinch hitting for Mark DeRosa in the DH spot. Kawasaki 1 for 6 as a pinch hitter. He will work Frieri. He knows he's got to get on base.
Whatever it takes. Right here. He likes to work the guy. He's not afraid to hit with a strike. Frieri can do this. He can fall behind.
2-0.
They took him out of the closer role very briefly this year. Their bullpen has blown 16 save opportunities this year.
Ball 3. Frieri has issued 28 walks in 59 2/3. Goins on deck. There's a strike. It's 3-1.
And he's been good against lefties this year. You saw that when we were flashing his stats up there. Just 153, which is the 3rd best in the American League. So Mike Scioscia is up off the bench.
Taking all the way. It's a full count. Second baseman Ryan Goins is on deck. Full count. Frieri is set. Kawasaki fights it off.
Got to challenge him.
Kawasaki's had some big moments this year, including a walk-off hit off the Orioles. Opposite field. Extra base hit.
Yep, triple to left center field off of Jim Johnson to win a game.
Another 3-2 pitch. Popped up. Ibar calls for it quickly. Backs up into the outfield. Kawasaki's retired. 1 down. Now for a preview of what's coming up on Connected, here's Ken Reed and Ivanka Osman. Thank you, Ken. Lots coming up right after this ball game on Connected. Ken and Ivanka will bring you up to speed on all the NHL camps, what's going on in the NFL, and the baseball schedule. Coming right up. Ryan Goins takes one outside. Goins looking for his first big league home run. Time is right. Fouls it
He was
straight
thinking
back.
about it. Tell you that. He had a swing and a cut. like he was trying to go deep. Frieri's got that rising fastball, and he just gets underneath that. Look at that swing. All the way up into the fifth deck.
Goins was a home run hitter in college. He played at Dallas Baptist University, and he hit some home runs in college, but he has not been a home run threat throughout his minor league career. Gap to gap kind of hitter. He's hit just 19 minor league home runs in his career over 5 seasons. Off the end of the bat, out of play. Frieri's got a good arm. We saw him when he made his Angel debut a couple years ago, and they picked him up from San Diego, and you and I were both scratching our head saying, how did they get this guy?
Yeah, what's San Diego doing? He was down in that bullpen. Really wasn't closing for the Padres. And Marista, I believe, was one of the players and a young pitcher that they sent down to San Diego.
Frieri thought he'd thrown strike 3. Casey Jansen hopeful of an opportunity to pitch. Blue Jays are going to have to tie it up if that's the case. 3-2, 1 out. Popped up. Ibar again, the shortstop. This time on the infield. Waits for it. 2 down. So Frieri gets 2 pop-ups to the shortstop. Frieri is from Bolivar, Colombia. He was signed by San Diego as a non-drafted free agent in '93. Anthony goes, takes a first pitch strike.
He's got that big arm like you were talking about. Can strike you out at any moment.
I said '93, of course. 2003, he signed with San Diego. Goes, fouls it back. He's behind 0-2. Blue Jays are down to their final strike.
Frieri will throw a slider and use that fastball. 86 strikeouts. That's a third most in the American League for a reliever. So Anthony Goes has got to protect the plate. Frieri's going to be going for the strikeout on this pitch.
0-2. Another close pitch. Ghost lays off. Anthony hit a grand slam home run in the second inning in last night's game off of Jerome Williams. His first homer of the season, his first career grand slam. He gets jammed. Another pop-up. Trumbo, the first baseman, in foul territory, and the Angels win it. Frieri picks up the save. He got 3 pop-ups in the 9th inning. C.J. Wilson picks up the win. The Blue Jays have lost the first 2 games of this series. Tonight they lose 5-4. Stay tuned. Connected coming right up. Ken Reed and Ivanka Osmak. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow night.